On the afternoon of June 27, 2013, I walked into the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, I was not there as a plaintiff or defendant, although I did appear before some Supreme Court justices. And I was not there as an attorney representing a client, although I did have to use my constitutional law knowledge, what little I had, while I was there. But the reason I was there at the Supreme Court that day was to present an opera. I know, it sounds unlikely, right? But it's true, it happened, and it launched a journey that would transform my life as an artist. And it's my privilege to share that journey with you today. So, when I was invited to come talk here a while ago, I could not have foreseen how much the Supreme Court would be on all our minds this past week. But the thing of it is, the Supreme Court had always been on my mind for quite some time now. I'm a composer, and as such, I go about my business, I go about my life, and I tend to hear music in the world around me. But I was also a student of law, and so I studied constitutional law. And as you know, the Supreme Court has many jobs, and one of those jobs is to interpret an 18th century document, our US Constitution, and apply it to questions that we face in society today. They come to decisions which are not always unanimous. Sometimes a justice or multiple justices will disagree with the decision of the court. And when that happens, they will issue what is known as a dissenting opinion. So, I'm in law school, I'm studying constitutional law, I'm also a composer. I have to read Supreme Court opinions, as one does, and I'm reading case after Supreme Court case, when suddenly I come upon the three magic words: Scalia, J, dissenting. There we go. And what I realized every time I read one of these fiery dissenting opinions was that I would start to hear music. Specifically, a rage aria about the Constitution. Now, as you may know, a rage aria is a kind of song in the Baroque Italian opera of the 1700s. It was very famous. Someone would be upset, they would be on stage, they would sing an aria, they would tell you why they were upset. There would be a lot of ah ha 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 ha, etc. And so, like a Scalia dissent, a Baroque rage aria is passionate, it is virtuosic, and it is rooted in traditions of the 18th century. So it got me thinking, there's music in this. And then I heard counterpoint, the words of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And suddenly, something clicked in my head. Her style was different. And her opinions were different, certainly. But what I discovered, as you may know, is that despite the fact that they sincerely disagreed on a number of issues, they were also very close friends. And that was interesting to me. It was very dramatic, right? The essence of drama is conflict, or so I've been told. And there's drama aplenty going on at the Supreme Court. But at the same time, they happened to have this very close friendship, which inspired me, and I thought, this is more than just a song. This is more than just a rage aria. This is a whole opera. And it's going to be called Scalia, Ginsburg. Well, this, of course, leads us to the question that I'm sure many of you have come across in your lives, which is, well, how do you write an opera about constitutional law? And there are ways of thinking about this. Here's one likely proposal. The Supreme Court is serious. An opera is serious. So let's write a very serious opera. Also, a lot of people in today's climate tend to really like one justice and dislike the other. So why don't we pick a side? write this opera, one justice good, one justice bad, clap, 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 boo, 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 and then 3 short hours later, we're all at home. But I thought, I was inspired to begin with by the examples of these justices of the Supreme Court. And it got me thinking, why don't I let the material, why don't I let the field of constitutional law itself inspire me and tell me what I might write? And that's when the answers came to me. Because, for example, yes, opera can be high drama, and so can the Supreme Court. But at the same time, when you think of it, these 2 justices, they're friends. They're working together to achieve some kind of goal. Now, they argue about it, certainly, but they do have a goal in common. And yet, as they do it, they're always trading zingers at each other all along the way. So maybe this isn't high drama. Maybe this is a buddy comedy. And on top of that, I thought, well, how do I want to tell this story? And again, I let the law inspire me. I let my subject influence the medium. And I thought, well, why not portray in music and words what it's like to grapple with the hard questions of law? And so there became a way of entering the story and telling it, which I like to call operatic precedent. By which I mean, I know, right? Again, sounds unlikely, but it's true. And the way operatic precedent worked was that just as in legal scholarship, any lawyers out here? Any? Okay. There you go. Exactly. You know what I'm talking about. Just as in legal scholarship, every statement you make has to be sourced to some kind of authority, I figured, wouldn't it be fun and interesting if everything these characters said to each other in the opera were somehow sourced to something they had actually said or written? This is also a way to say that I spent a lot of time doing footnotes. And then on top of that, in the same way that court opinions have to rely on previous decisions, landmark decisions, to develop new points of law, wouldn't it be fun and interesting if the music of Scalia Ginsburg did the same thing? So at key moments, it would refer to famous passages in opera to then generate new material. Again, I know, it sounds unlikely, but it's true. And actually, what happened was that the fact that this work was so grounded in the law became a good thing. It attracted the attention, rather I should say, of the 2 justices who were kind enough to invite me to present some of the opera for them. Which brings us back to here. On June 27th, 2013, it was the day after the Windsor decision, so they finally had time. That was the last decision, so they had some time off a little bit. And I arrived at the court with 2 singers and a law professor, and we entered the East Conference Room of the Supreme Court, which is much sexier, as you can tell, than its name would imply. This is the East Conference Room. We walked in, and I told my singers, 1, congratulations, and 2, no pressure. Well, we presented for the justices, and they reacted favorably, and I was so grateful for that. And Nina Totenberg covered it for NPR, and when that story went on All Things Considered, also, this was around the same time I was studying for the bar exam, so this was my one study break. That was like a whole other thing. That launched the opera into the life that it has now. And this past summer, in July 2015, we had the world premiere of Scalia Ginsburg in a fully staged production, a nice 50-piece orchestra, at the Castleton Festival, founded by former New York Philharmonic conductor Lorin Maazel. And why am I sharing this with you? Well, I suppose, as you may have heard me say, I know it sounds unlikely, but it's true. And what I learned from this journey was so much more than meeting famous people or putting on a big show. What I learned was to unlock the artistry in unlikely places. Not to apply preconceived notions of what I thought an opera should be, or what I thought the law should be, or even what I thought about the relationship between the justices, or what I thought of the justices themselves. And in that way, their friendship inspired me. I learned to let the subject tell me the story that it wanted heard. And that is why I'm here today and why I wanted to share my journey with you. Thank you.